All right, well, good morning, and we are very happy to welcome all of you to our webinar, which is devoted to the work that our really tremendous JCP digitization team has accomplished over the course of the past 8 months. And we are very fortunate to have with us our digital consultant, our accessibility and universal design for learning expert, Carolina Cohoon, who is going to be leading this presentation. And we are also extremely grateful as well to be able to have ASL interpreters with us here today to make sure that this webinar is accessible to a very broad public and to members of the deafblind community. This is very much in keeping, as you will see, with the values that have informed this project from start to finish. So Carolina, would you like me to deliver the land acknowledgement, or would you like to do it?
I think you can deliver it, sure.
Okay, happy to do so. We would like to begin by acknowledging the indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. Thank you.
Welcome to Impacts of Universal Design for Learning and the JCP Digitization Project, and that is sponsored by Employment Ontario and Literacy Link. So thank you for having me. We're gathering together for celebrations today. So it's a learning opportunity, but also a celebration, as each contributing member of this project has helped us design and remediate resources to support our community goals towards inclusion and diversity in the learning environment. You know, we often speak about inclusion in the learning environment. So today we're very excited to show you what inclusion looks like and share all the accomplishments of this amazing team we have been working with since March 2021. So our stars are, and I will say the first names because our interpreters are finger spelling each name. So just for clarity, just wanted to share that. The participants are Bradley, Cassandra, Dawn, Doreen, Jeff, Natasha, Susan. Our former participants are Rory, Michaela, Lauren, Jolanda, Alicia, and Rana. And we're, of course, here too, our project management from Literacy Link South Central, Jeremy Marks, and myself, Carolina Cohoon. We have a beautiful agenda today. Here's an overview of accessibility and universal design for learning in action. We're gonna share best practices about training JCP participants, which it stands for Job Creation Partnership, accomplishments, and some impact stories. I wanted to share a little bit of a history of how it all began. The pandemic left many programs and their learners with so many uncertainties, and Literacy Link South Central wanted to assist in making the transition to this digitized and enigmatic world of online learning a little bit smoother for every stakeholder. So with vision, empathy, and quite a thorough and strategic plan, the digitization project with tools of universal design for learning came to life. As I mentioned, many of us heard about universal design for learning, but really never had a chance to see it in practice. Today, we will give you a sneak peek of what UDL looks like, or Universal Design for Learning looks like, and we will tell you about these new passions, new career interests, and a true commitment to edit and create tasks with equity in mind. So when designers, we're talking about curriculum developers, we're talking about any task developers, any instructors, talk about accessible design, we tend to think of interfaces for users with disabilities only. However, I want you to think about this. This definition is not only narrow, because this runs the risk of treating accessibility as an afterthought, or perhaps as a simple addition for users dealing with physical or cognitive limitations. Instead, with accessibility, it should be natural to the discovery, to the design and development from the start of the project. For this reason, we developed training for the JCP that promoted an inclusive or universal approach to design, which really expands the definition of accessibility and folds it into targeting the removal of barriers that the vast majority of learners may face. So universal design for learning also anticipates barriers from the beginning. So each change also helps other users, just like these glass doors that you can see on this PowerPoint. Everyone benefits from them. If we have people on wheelchair, or a mother pushing a stroller, or perhaps someone carrying several bags of grocery items, we all know that the sliding doors make buildings more accessible for everyone. So the same thought is put into the design of the tasks. By taking a proactive approach, we also reduce the needs for accommodations. Besides, it is less costly in the long term. So why universal design for learning? There are 3 principles in universal design for learning: the why, the what, and the how. Let's say, for example, you are in this journey to learn what universal design for learning is. Let's think about that. The why is important. We all need to know why we're learning concepts related to accessibility or neuroscience. Why, for example, we are in this journey together. It is about engaging us to best understand why we do these things and why we do all this learning. The what is about the multiple ways we can bring this learning experience to you. It could be PowerPoints, it could be webinars, could be gamification, podcasts, videos, just because we all learn differently. And the how is about how you express your mastery of this concept. So you could choose to write, for example, a paper on universal design for learning, or deliver your own webinar to peers, or perhaps you could create a podcast or an infographic, and the same learning goal is achieved for everyone, by everyone. But you can see that the means are flexible. And with this approach, we ensure we remove as many barriers to learning that relate to access, engagement, and demonstration. We also ensure that there is equity, because equality alone is not enough if we don't provide the means for learners to succeed. As we can see here in these 3 pictures, we depict UDL in action. The first picture, only 1 of 3 people can write on the board comfortably. In the second picture, accommodations get a little bit closer to equity, right? It is true, everyone can access that board with a ramp and the stool, but my question to you is, what if someone else with a different learning need wants access to this board. The reactive responses, you'll need additional accommodations. And this can be time consuming. It can be stressful for learners and instructors, and really it's only a short-term solution. With a proactive approach, such as the one in the last picture, in the third picture, we can see that the needs for accommodations lessen. The designers take a proactive approach by learning about their audience and removing as many barriers as possible. And this is really our intent when developing tasks. We take a proactive approach because retrofitting and task remediation is costly in a long term. And UDL help us take a proactive approach by removing these potential barriers ahead of time, which gives all learners more opportunities to succeed as the tasks and assessments are fair and inclusive. I wanted to capture the UDL experience. This is from one of our JCPs who, because I implemented UDL during the training experience, and these are her thoughts. With the UDL portion of training, which didn't just teach us about UDL, we were taught with UDL. So we experienced it, and it was incredibly empowering. I have ADHD, and most curriculums are not designed for students like me to thrive in. With past experiences, I really did not believe I could succeed academically, and it was frustrating and discouraging. And when I successfully completed this, it hit me. This works. Everything I had learned through this training has stuck with me so strongly. It wasn't just facts I memorized to complete the training and forget later. And not once during the training had I felt the crippling anxiety and dread I had always felt before in similar situations. I entered into this because I wanted to teach, something that seemed like an utmost impossible dream for me. My own experiences with learning in the past were closer akin to nightmares. And I just wanted to help others not share my experiences to make things even a little better for someone else. I want that even more so now because this training has proved for me that it doesn't have to be like that I can contribute to helping others, and that is unbelievably empowering. So who does it benefit? We can see it benefits all. Anyone with differences, physical, cognitive, learning, sensory, language. UDL enhances access and builds self-efficacy. It builds metacognition. It ensures new concepts become part of the long-term memory. Many resources and training experiences do not allow multiple means of access and demonstration. So when we are giving learners a choice, we leverage a student's individual strengths to increase confidence and reduce anxiety so that everyone can absorb new information and develop new skills, so that this content, this new learning, goes past the working memory. So I thought to share some strategies to train JCP with UDL, some of the strategies that I use in order to help them learn these concepts. So one of them was planning active lessons with a variety of tools. Each of the team members was able to access an interactive learning management system with no extensive PowerPoints. It had some optional gamification, and I mean optional because not everybody likes playing games. It had podcasts, it had videos. We also offer webinars with case studies and a human library with a person from the blind community so that they could ask her as many questions as they wish. We also offer training in screen readers with a person, again, from the blind community who uses this technology. We provided access to tons of software and the development of many resources by creating videos, infographics, brochures, QR codes. We also included virtual reality. Many of our members had the opportunity to develop, actually to create their own VR goggles from scratch. And there were some simulations, and I don't know, this is what I could think of. There was so much more in it. Second, incorporate personal interest into projects. So a simple but effective way to sustain student engagement is to integrate a student's personal interest and talents into the learning while you are providing this instruction on any projects. So Jeremy effectively assigned projects by maintaining these doors open at all times. So to me, receiving emails from the JCP team members suggesting, new resources or emailing each other about something that they discover, anything that could develop our UDL Vault, telling me, for example, that they wanted more work and take on challenging tasks. That speaks volumes of these amazing teams and the power of UDL. Third, give options for expression. For example, encourage students to use their talents and creativity to show what they learn. In this case, we use formative assessment and supported the mistakes as a step towards new learning. Some of the learners told me that in previous work environments, they were not allowed to make as many mistakes. And I actually promoted it. It was important for them to make these mistakes because this was part of the learning experiences. I told them, do not worry about marks. We want to think about the experience. We want to think about mistakes as a step towards new learning. So learners had choices to work, for example, in groups of 2 or by themselves. There was one-on-one coaching available. I sent some video emails, for example, sometimes with instructions. And the final exam was, they reviewed a self-assessment rubric, and they were able to self-assess themselves and help us provide the scores so that the decision was not the trainers alone. We gave power to every learner to explain why they deserve a certain score. The next one is to build an executive function support. Executive function interventions are typically reserved for individual students with ADHD, for example, but these supports can be built into lesson, projects, and daily routines to benefit the entire group. For example, the use of checklists or sending the project manager a weekly workflow of activities to communicate to the team. Learners self-reported using visible timers or apps that reminding them to stay on task. And to be honest, it was wonderful too, because they could speak from personal experiences and share with us some of the tips and tools we could add to our UDL Vault to support executive functions. And the last piece of advice is providing options for the working environment. Accommodate learner schedules. Understand that adult learners, there's no such a thing as 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. day. It doesn't meet the needs of everyone, especially during these trying times. And not everyone has a private space. It is important also to honor the team's choices if they don't wish to activate their video cameras and provide options to communicate during webinars. And here are some of the self-reported learned skills by the JCP. I apologize for the quality of the graphic, but I will give you an insight of what it is. And so 100% of team members reported they learn on accessibility handouts. 100% of them reported learning disability, about disability and inclusion awareness, that learning has increased. Research and testing software for UDL, 100%. Research and testing software for accessibility, 85.5%. Accessible documentation and remediation, 100%. Adding captions to images and videos, 50%. Writing descriptive video scripts, 25%. And the other is 62.5%, includes anything extra they learn, such as creating infographics regarding accessibility in social media, testing screen readers, developing and delivering training for the public and their peers, and mentoring placement students in video creation. And I have to tell you, I can't wait for these infographics to be shared on the Literacy Link South Central website. They are amazing and they're accessible. I will give the floor to Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Carolina. So I have the pleasure of getting to talk about what we have accomplished over the course of this project. And the reason that I say that it's my pleasure to speak to this is an opportunity for me to offer praise to our outstanding team. And I would begin, of course, with Carolina, whose support and training has been remarkable. I don't feel I have enough adjectives in my possession to properly or adequately praise Carolina for what she's offered. But when she mentioned a moment ago about how, you know, an 8-to-4 schedule doesn't really work for most people or doesn't really capture the needs of most people, particularly learners, I would say that that also speaks to the way that Carolina herself operates, where I think team members could attest to this as well. Whenever an issue arose, particularly if there was an issue regarding troubleshooting with the technology or a question regarding UDL checkpoints or accessibility concepts, Carolina was always, and I must underscore, always available for not only support in terms of providing advice and suggestions, but also moral support. And so I feel that it's really important to emphasize this because this connects very closely to one of the virtues of this team, which is that this is a team that learned and demonstrated very early on a willingness not only to take risks and to troubleshoot, but demonstrated being comfortable and being able to be comfortable with asking questions and being uncertain about what the right solutions are. And they demonstrated a willingness to make mistakes. And I say that in the most complimentary sense possible, because one of the things that Carolina emphasized from the beginning is that whenever you're undertaking a new way of thinking, and to be able to think in both an accessible manner, to understand what accessibility means, to be able to engage with UDL, but more importantly, to be able to put yourself in the shoes of someone who relies on or who will benefit directly from UDL and accessibility because of their own conditions, their own experiences. To be able to do that requires thinking in a new way and recognizing the fact that you don't necessarily know what the right steps are or have all the answers. So it really is worth praising the team for their willingness to embrace this. And as a result, to become, as Carolina indicated, advocates for this approach. So that really is a compliment to them. I would say that as far as our accomplishments are concerned, one of the things that became very apparent with this project from the beginning was that what was written in our agreement, the responsibilities that we have, the deliverables that we are required to deliver, was really in some ways a small portion of what we actually ended up accomplishing. And when I say we, it's really they. So if you look at what is on the slide, the 26 accessible videos that were developed by our, we'll call them our CNIB team, a team that worked very closely with the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. In our agreement, all the agreement said was to assist the CNIB or deafblind programs with adding closed captions to videos so that they can be useful to deafblind LBS learners. It never said the amount, and it never went into detail about what the need would be. It just made clear what the responsibility of the project and our project team was and is. The video resources that have been developed are extensive, and as you can see from the slide, the categories involved: voiceover videos, videos for Chrome extensions and apps, how to participate on Zoom, the use of Zoom tutorials, are now a very extensive library that not only include ASL interpretation and captioning, but also a very professionally crafted set of videos that you could find attached to any corporation, to any software company, private interface program, because of the professional commitment of that team. And the amount of hours, edits, proofreading, script development that went into that is extremely impressive. And fortunately, we have a record of all of the steps that went into the development of these videos. We had members of the team that were responsible for working for the task-based portal that is managed and curated by Quill. And this also is an extremely involved and evolving process. There are over 540 tasks on this portal, and one of the things involved in making those tasks accessible and making sure that learners can use them using Adobe software and fillable PDFs is that those tasks have to be edited to be used in an Adobe format. And the team members who worked on that spent hours troubleshooting how to turn those outstanding tasks into fillable forms. And the steps involved in that required not only mastering the use of Adobe Acrobat software, but also using Microsoft Word to help adapt those tasks to then be converted into Adobe files. And so troubleshooting, particularly with Adobe, was something that came up right from the beginning. So little did we know that we would have to have basically an Adobe expert in our midst. And one of our team members, Cassandra Behrens, became an Adobe pro right from the beginning. And not only was helpful to the rest of the team, but she even was asked to deliver a webinar to one of our other Literacy Link South Central projects, the Community Tech Connect project. She, with the help of Dawn Oviedo, who worked on the ASL and captioning for the 26 accessible videos, the two of them put a webinar together that was shared with the broader community. So not only did the team work very extensively on the development of these tasks, of creating these fillable PDFs, but they developed a technical expertise that is now being shared with other members of the community, which I will speak a little bit more to in a moment. We had team members who worked on developing matrices for Chrome extensions and learning management system supports. Two team members who spent not only countless hours working on the development of these matrices and learning the ins and outs of learning management systems and Chrome extensions, documenting how those work, but also in partnership with Alpha Plus, developed a matrice format that can be shared with our not only 6-county community that Literacy Link South Central serves, but with our provincial partners more broadly. The team, the work that they did was praised by Alpha Plus. These two individuals, Jeff L. Tontway and Bradley Kitts, also worked on the development of accessibility brochures to introduce accessibility principles to the broader public using brochures and infographics. They developed research. They actually interpreted survey data that we conducted about learner variability within our community. They provided graphs. They provided descriptive text for that. All of these resources are going to be made available to our broader community, and their work on each of the items I mentioned was not only extensive, but excellent and of a professional caliber. And if we could go to the next slide, Carolina, that'd be great. We have been conducting a digitization for accessibility, which has included the digitization of more than 60 law-back curricular documents. The digitization of these law-back documents was vital to the project. So I'm personally, and our team is very grateful to Lawback and to Robin Cook Ritchie for giving us permission to have access to these documents. We ascertained very early in the project that to truly help our community-based literacy nonprofit partners, we would need to use law-backed documents to support them, because law-back, of course, is a resource that is relied upon by so many community practitioners, not only within our service area, but across the province. And so having access to these documents means that we can fully support our partners. These documents have not only been formatted for accessibility, they have also been audited with Universal Design for Learning recommendations. So to give you an insight into that process, this means having access to the documents. It means opening them up and checking them for accessibility, not only using Microsoft Word software, but also using screen readers to ensure that the documents are fully accessible to members of the deafblind community. And then on top of that, the entire team worked to provide very detailed recommendations on how, going forward, those documents can conform to Universal Design for Learning principles. The people who are primarily responsible for the digitization work are Natasha Muiaz and Susan Cadwell, who are, as well as some of our former team members too, who spent many, many months working very diligently to convert these documents. And also they were assisted by other members of our team, and they could speak at length to what an involved and involving process this was. In addition to the work that they did on the law-backed documents, Natasha in particular has spent time working on the math curricula for St. Patrick Adult and Continuing Education. She single-handedly digitized and formatted for accessibility the LIUNA Math Trades Booster Program workbook, which received considerable praise from our partners at Fanshawe College. And currently, both Susan and Natasha are working on digitizing for accessibility the essential skills workbooks provided by Literacy Link South Central. And then finally, another component to our project was the need from the very beginning for a sustainability element. So as you saw from a slide at the very beginning of the presentation, we started out with 10 team members. But the goal of any job creation partnership project is not only to deliver on our agreements, it's also to ensure that team members have the opportunity to seek employment, and that work on this project will provide them not only with professional and skills development, but also the opportunity to network, not only within our community, but also to find gainful employment. So we had a number of team members who had to depart over the course of the project. And so as a result, from early on, we as a team were looking to make sure that sustainability measures were in place. So I asked team members to develop resources that could be shared among our team members in the event that someone departed. And what this led to was the creation of professional development webinars in the use of Excel spreadsheet software, in accessible video making, and also in the creation of fillable Adobe PDFs. All of those resources have been immensely helpful, not only in terms of helping to sustain our team, but also they're great professional development opportunities in their own right, because we have a chance to go and not only learn from one another, but to go back and consult those videos for further skills development. And then in addition to that, we have members of the team who have been working on the development of captioned math videos for St. Patrick Adult and Continuing Education. Specifically, they're calculating with whole numbers learner text. And what is worth mentioning about that is that at St. Patrick, learners were consulted about the videos that they were provided. And one of the things that the learners are particularly appreciative of is that the videos, while similar in some respects to those on Khan Academy, which many school-age learners use all over the world, learners at St. Patrick were particularly pleased with the fact that they don't have to rely on Khan, not because it isn't an accessible format, but because they liked the fact that a resource was developed for them as adult learners. And what I was informed about was that they felt use of those videos was more dignified, a more dignified exercise as a result. So as you can see from what I've just listed, the team has created a remarkable amount of resources. And what I also want to compliment them on is the fact that all of this was done remotely. We never were in office together. All of this was coordinated using Zoom videos, using Zoom as a platform of communication, relying upon email, relying upon various apps for quick communication, using text messages. And it really is a credit to the team that they were able to pull together, and also were constantly helping one another out and demonstrating extensive interest in one another's areas of the project. So again, that is I really cannot praise them. I really feel that I just cannot adequately praise them for their open-mindedness, for their willingness to help one another, and for being unafraid to take on new challenges. So now I'd like to turn to some testimonials. So if we could have the next slide, please. What we're going to do is we have 6 testimonials that we're going to share. The first 3 are from Bradley Kitts, Cass Barnes, and Dawn Oviedo. And then after the 3 of them have delivered their testimonials, I'm going to read 3 testimonials from 3 other team members. So Susan Cadwell, Doreen Joy, and Natasha Muyas. So Bradley, if I could turn this over to you to provide your testimonial.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. The way my training has altered my view on accessibility is that it's shown me how much goes into not just the field of education, but in day-to-day life to try to make anything we do as accessible to as wide of an audience as possible. Like in the educational field, teachers need to be concerned with not only how they demonstrate their lessons, but also how they assign problems to their learners, such as written problems needing physical demonstrations, providing different methods of completion, and making sure that anyone can access the information regardless of ability. And it's never as simple as just telling them what to do and making sure they understand like what they're being asked. Same can be said for the working world as well, where employers need to make sure that workers that they employ have a clear enough idea on the job that they want done, and if it's as safe as possible, and it can be done as easily as possible given, again, their abilities. And this is affected me with even day-to-day documents and emails and even texts that I have written where I try to use as an inclusive and properly formatted language as possible, regardless of who I'm writing to, even if it's never going to be seen by anybody. Most importantly, as it says on the slide, I feel this job has affected me personally the most. And as someone with a learning disability, which I am not afraid to disclose, I got a closer insight on what barriers I have within myself when it comes to various fields and how I would go about working around them based on what I've learned. And almost what makes me tick, as so to speak. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bradley. Cass, if we can turn to you next, please.
Hello. The training and experience I received had a big impact on my work and on my views. The shift in my perspective really was exactly in line with what the adult literacy field aims to accomplish with its learners, to further enable and empower them. I always felt accessibility and inclusion were important, but before this, they were more vague concepts to me rather than very attainable realities. For me, the training I received on this project brought things close to home and showed me how I could make a difference and contribute to making things more inclusive. As someone who would someday really love to be a teacher, I couldn't have asked for a more meaningful experience. But even then, it went further than that. The training and experience also helped me overcome many of my own barriers. Although I was doing my best to be optimistic, my own barriers to education and to the workforce had seemed pretty insurmountable. An injury forced me to pursue retraining, but I didn't really see my own skills as valuable, and my past experiences with education had been extremely discouraging. I'm neurodivergent, and most curriculums aren't designed for learners like myself, and I had no confidence in my ability to succeed academically, to accomplish my goal of becoming a teacher, and to even be able to contribute to the work that matters most to me. Throughout my time with the JCP, each of these private little narratives were flipped on their head. All thanks to the JCP with Literacy Link South Central and the training in accessibility in UDL that Carolina provided. I've even enrolled in college courses part-time, ready to give it another try. Also, I've gained a new appreciation for teachers, especially for those of you in the adult literacy field and its sister fields, careers in ESL. The work you do is amazing and vital. You quite literally build people up. And I am incredibly grateful that I got to support and contribute to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cass. So Dawn, if I can turn to you next, please.
Yes, hello. So the training has forever changed the way that I think and has altered my perspectives. We received training that was so well put together and inclusive in design. Not only did the training give different aspects of how to absorb and apply the information, but it also shared so many amazing thought-provoking resources. I was specifically fascinated by pieces during the training, such as we were exposed to how the brain learns within each network. There was a goalbook toolkit site, which outlined strategies and tools used by teachers for UDL. And then third, just the exposure to the CNIB community paired with development webinars, I found incredibly valuable and really touched me in different ways and opened up my mind. So with that and just everybody on the team in general, I feel that I can really relate to a broader group of people now. I empathize with how people from deafblind communities experience the world. I have an awareness of assistant technologies, accessible documents, and services, also with their lack of availability. In that when I view documents now, whether it be signs or videos, online platforms, softwares, I find myself automatically finding accessibility barriers to representation, expression and engagement. So then I've realized how easy it could really be to remove the barriers with funding and time through everything that we've been experienced to with this program. I came into this project wanting to gain remote digitization skills and learn new things. I had been searching for a job that could also make me feel useful again after COVID took me out of the workforce. However, I came out with so much more than that. I don't just want to gain a remote job in whichever field that will challenge me. I want to make the world of education more accessible, engage with people, and be part of a change so every human being can thrive in a way that feeds their soul and makes living easier, as well as learning easier. Some other ways that have benefited me are conversations and support through sharing with the team. I have a sense of pride through the resources that I have been able to create and share. I know they help others. The freedom to learn and absorb everything you want has been fantastic with this program. You really get to kind of develop and evolve into different roles within the project, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And that just comes with lots of skills that we have all acquired and refined. And lastly, I have a real appreciation and just a better awareness now of the nonprofit sector and the importance of inclusion, accessible education through all aspects of UDL, really. I do want to give special recognition and thank you to our project manager, Jeremy Marks. He is the best boss I have worked for, and I know I can speak for some others in that sense as well. he was always approachable, organized, knowledgeable, full of passion, and really worked alongside the team, which myself I really appreciated. So thank you, Jeremy. And then lastly, I really do want to thank also Carolina Cohoon. Carolina, you're such a force, full of passion and a beautiful soul. You know, like Jeremy said, you would always make yourself available at any time to help. And that is very valuable in this type of learning and in any learning, really. Every time Carolina spoke, I felt I needed to be writing it down because she has so much valuable information and insight to share with everybody. So thank you, Carolina.
Thank you very much, Dawn. So I have 3 testimonials that I would like to share from 3 team members who gave me the privilege of being able to read their words to you. The first is from Susan Cadwell. When I joined Literacy Link's JCP program, I thought I was knowledgeable about accessibility and the physical needs of the disabled. I was wrong. I did not have a clue about the low vision and the deaf community and their daily struggles to learn and work. I didn't know about screen readers and what it takes for them to read sentences properly, and which the sighted take for granted. When I saw ASL interpreters, I was pleased that the deaf community was being looked after. It is true there is a level of care being given, but I did not realize ASL does not sign for every word, so things may get lost in translation. To say my perspective for the needs of learners has changed would be an understatement. Before joining the JCP, I didn't really have a perspective on how low vision and deaf persons learn. I knew there would be roadblocks in the learning process. I just didn't realize how many, such as the amount of time it takes to arrange for ASL interpreters, the way the documents needed to be adjusted just to be readable for those with low vision among us. What I did not expect was the training on the universal design for learning and the way that it opened my perspective on how people are taught. You may think that UDL has only to do with the disabled, as I did originally, but in delving further, it is for everyone, as there is no average learner. We all have challenges and perspectives which influence the way we learn and absorb new material. I know I will never look at a work environment the same way again. So would a low vision person be able to work here? What about a deaf person? Would they be able to function in the environment? Well, there are questions that will come to mind. Does the company or organization know about ASL interpretation? What about screen readers? Would the documents being worked on be readable? Once you know the questions to ask, the world changes. Will I ever be able to look at Word or PDF documents the same way again after working at Literacy Link? That keeps running through my mind. The simple answer is no. Does the document have the right font? Is it the right size? Does it have the right color contrast? Would the PDF work with a screen reader? Are the tags correct? All questions I would not have had any idea about before my experience here at Literacy Link. Have I benefited from working at Literacy Link? This is the question that comes to mind as my time here nears an end. I have benefited from meeting wonderful and caring individuals, most who, like me, had little knowledge of the community of low vision and deaf. We came together to work on this project to benefit others. I gained a new perspective about the literacy community and the good work that it does. I have enjoyed working for a nonprofit organization, and the thought that my work will have been of some direct benefit to others in the disabled world. The next testimonial is from Natasha Muias. The training I received changed the way I think in a multitude of ways. One being how I no longer automatically think something is accessible to everyone if it looks good by my standards. There are so many things that are easy fixes that can make a world of difference to someone who may be visually or otherwise impaired. I now always use subtitles when I'm watching something and will try and see how accurate they are to what's actually being said and how they can be improved. I now do little things in every day, like emails and documents, which I set my font to Arial and the size to 12 points or larger, so it is more accessible. And I use whatever accessibility checkers are available. In general, I think the training I received made me more sensitive and aware of the possible needs of others. The training I received altered my perspective on the needs of learners because it showed me that easy fixes, such as using the accessibility checker and making sure your font size is accessible in a document you are using or a presentation you are giving, are much more doable and should be implemented without a second thought. It showed me that you should not always assume that everyone can read, hear, or learn the same way, and there must be options for everyone. The training I received changed my perspective on the working world, because now I am more aware of what companies and employers need to do in order to make their environment more accessible to everyone, such as having a ramp for wheelchair access, accommodations for people who require them, etc. I now know what the bare minimum is and will try to advocate for anything I believe needs attention brought to it. The training I received changed the way I read documents because I am now more aware of things such as accessible font sizes, colors, styles, and the general way a document should be laid out to be considered accessible. I now am always utilizing the accessibility checker on my own documents, ensuring there are page numbers on the bottom right-hand corner. Headings are defined by styles, and every picture that is relevant is put into alt text. I feel I benefited from this training as it gave me more experience and skills in Microsoft Word, Adobe, Google Docs and Google Forms, PowerPoint, using a screen reader, and more. I also feel like this training taught me that what I thought would be impossible sometimes or too difficult is possible with just a little time, effort, and practice. I tackled more math documents than I've seen in the last decade, and I never would have thought that would have been possible before. But now I know that with a lot of patience and practice, it can be done. And it's actually not as hard as you think it will be. This project in general was very rewarding, and I feel like I learned a lot about where we are as a society with accessibility and how far we still have to go. And if we all work together, we can reach our goal of an accessible future. And lastly, I would like to read the testimonial of Doreen Joy. I don't have enough words to express my sincere gratitude for the opportunity given by Literacy Link South Central to me so that I could work along with LLSC and other esteemed team members. My role in the project was mainly focusing on digitizing tasks for Quill Learning Network for the task-based portal by creating fillable PDFs and Google Forms. Along with digitization, I have been trained on accessibility and universal design for learning. I did have a vague idea about accessibility before the JCP training, even though I did not have much knowledge into the specifics and the importance attached to it. The training provided to me has enhanced my understanding of the topic in such a way that I now truly and deeply appreciate the ideas, concepts, and values attached with accessibility, along with its practical implications in daily life for those who are using it. With the training I received, I was able to audit files for accessibility and UDL over the past couple of months. The JCP program has immensely helped me to gain various digital skills and has shaped me to be competitive for my future career growth. I am thankful to my project manager, Jeremy Marks, for his constant support and guidance throughout the project, without which I wouldn't be able to complete it. I am also very grateful to Carolina Cohoon, who was very patient and resourceful throughout accessibility and UDL training and has helped me to get the very best out of it. Last but not least, I would like to thank my teammate Cassandra Behrens for her constant help in troubleshooting, and my project teammates who are always ready to offer any kind of assistance in completing the tasks. Looking forward, I believe that I will be able to carry my various skills that I have gained through this program on to my next career. So thank you, Susan, Doreen, and Natasha for your testimonials, and Bradley, Dawn, and Cass as well. So I would like to take the opportunity before we conclude the presentation portion of our webinar to thank everybody in attendance. And I am especially grateful to our community for being willing to work with us during this project and for being unfailingly supportive in terms of the work that we've been doing. As I mentioned, law-backed literacy earlier, the Quill Network has been a tremendous partner and have been unfailing supporters of what we do. So I want to acknowledge Deborah Flynn and Heather Robinette for their assistance. I want to acknowledge Robin Cook-Ritchie. I want to acknowledge Tamara Cottery of Literacy Link South Central, who has been an unfailing supporter of this project. And I think that I can speak for our team in saying that we have been welcomed in every meeting that we have attended. I would add Alpha Plus to that list as well, and the St. Patrick Adult and Continuing Education. Every time we approached an organization and said what our project was about and what we were trying to do, everybody was very enthusiastic and welcoming and never once questioned or doubted the validity of our mission and of our goals. So thank you all very much for your support. And again, to the audience who is here today, thank you very much for being here. To Beth Anstedt, who has supported our project as well, representing our funder, I'm very grateful to her support as well. So again, I feel like I've said thank you about half a dozen times in the last 30 seconds, but I will say it one more time. Thank you very, very much. It was truly a pleasure and a privilege to be able to act as project manager and to be able to work so closely with this team and with Carolina Cohoon.